It's it's okay. Anyways, back to working smarter, not harder. I know that all of us have heard that charm growing up, but what does it really mean to us? Working hard is important, but exerting more effort doesn't necessarily improve what we're doing throughout our day. So, simply putting it, working smarter means making the most of your time. No one can create extra hours in the day, but each of us has the ability to make every second count. Practicing good time management is obviously an important part of working smarter, but there are several other ways of increasing how we get things done, like delegating responsibilities to others, maintaining your focus, and identifying obstacles and utilizing your resources, also known as networking. As new managers, you might think that being in charge means doing it all, but it doesn't. Strong leaders know they can't do it all, which for me personally, I find that that's one thing that even today I have to practice, right? Like I wake up in the morning and I have this list, and when I look at the list, I get very overwhelmed and I think that I have to have everything done by a certain time. But during this time, I have to step back and look at the strengths of my employees and the people that are around me to really utilize their strengths and abilities to delegate those things, giving those responsibility also gives them the buy-in. And I noticed that I could get more out of my day, but also where we're heading in the same direction when I'm sitting there handing them different things to do because they get prideful in it. They get the same ownership that I receive when I share the things that I have on my plate, which is a very important task to learn as a new manager. Here's some fun facts. Wendy's franchise found that if they shaved 1 second off their drive-through window time, it directly resulted in $11,000 in higher gross sales over a 1 year period. Those small changes make a big difference. And this part of working smarter, I know that we've probably all sat there and we're probably sitting there at this moment wondering, like, how do I delegate better? How do I get more out of my shift? And we all have those examples that when, leaders that we've worked under, or even ourselves, where we haven't delegated and things have fallen apart. I remember it had to have been about a decade ago. We had this big presentation. It was kind of similar to an operating partner executive chef meeting. And it was for a new restaurant opening, and my leader didn't ask for help. And when we showed up in the morning time, we were doing this huge presentation and we were supposed to have our rotation set up and everything was supposed to be ready. And here comes in our COO and our CEO, and nothing was done. And I remember that impacting me greatly, especially in the leadership as I move forward, is always making sure that, here's a great time. We have rollouts coming out. How can we as leaders take those moments, 5 minutes out of a day and say, okay, I'm going to have this manager work on this, or I'm going to have this lead bartender work on this, and let's role play a little bit on what they're presenting or what they're doing. That way, when we come in and we're doing those all staff meetings or we're doing those manager meetings, everybody is participating in it. But I remember that like it was yesterday, and it was that sinking feeling like in the bottom of my stomach where I couldn't fix it, right? Because I didn't know how to. But now teaching people how to do those things is something that I take great pride in. Oh, sorry, my screen has paused. This may sound crazy, but managers are responsible for developing a team and they could learn a lot from geese. Every aspect, wow, I don't know if you guys got that, but my computer just went down. Okay, I'm back. Every goose knows the common direction of the flock. Every member of the flock is willing to assume leadership when the flock is going in the same direction. And I didn't realize this when I was researching this, but what geese do is they get this formation and the ones in the back automatically know the call. They all know the same direction. They all know what the language that they're going in. And when the leader in the front gets tired, which naturally happens, the geese that are energetic in the back move to the front, allowing that leader to take the back seat for a while, allowing him to sit there and recover from from what he needs to do and be able to, nourish himself and get back up there in the front of the flock. And also, one thing that I find interesting is that when a goose goes down, two others go with him to help him recover. And I find that very true in our society now, right? Like when our leaders are going down, we as the managers are there to help support them and push them forward and be their cheerleaders. Whether that's one of our strengths or not, it's very important that we're always making sure that we're driving in the same direction. Some of the best advice you can receive is right here on this screen. Don't be afraid to use the phrase, "I don't know." That right there is probably the most important phrase that I can teach my managers and myself is I don't know everything. And that's why at the very beginning of this presentation, I talked about networking. It is really important that I reach out my hand and I say, hey, I don't know, do you? Or do you know somebody that knows how to do this? The moment that I take that ownership on that I know something that I don't know, just leads me to fail later on. Also, never gossip. No task is beneath you. Share the credit whenever possible. Ask for help. When you don't like someone, don't let it show. Let things go. And when you're right, don't gloat. Also one of my favorites. Is there anybody that is on this call that may have an example on how they can work smarter moving forward and delegate more? Watch out, I know some of you. Sprite, do you have an example?
You hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay. So the good example is I would say myself, because like I've been told all the time that like I'm not work smart. I just like working hard. And then actually it is shows because like in most sense, in most case, in many days, like we can only be one person in one position. We cannot fill ourselves into every spot. So that means we have to be able to delegate and trust in your team and make sure that, okay, everyone know that spot and you are the one to go on top of it. And that's what makes me work harder and work smarter things. Back to you.
Thanks, Sprite. Problem when I know people's names in the room. While some people easily pick up on a new skill, most of it takes a little bit for more teaching. This is a great way of teaching someone a new skill or task. And y'all have probably all seen this in all of our training guides, the tell, show, do review. Use it with your managers. Tell, explain what the tasks and procedures we're doing. Give some background information on the subject. Explain the whys behind what we do. Show, demonstrate the task and elaborate on each procedure. The do, have the employee perform the task. Review, ask them questions to check their understanding and or remind them of anything they may have missed. Be sure to ask, how do you think you did? This will give you great insight into what the team member knows and doesn't know. Say they did a poor job, but they can recognize what they did wrong. Great, we can really try and work on that. Build on those moments of them being able to reflect back. Now, if they did a poor job and they can't realize that, that also gives us the ability to step back a little bit and realize maybe something that we had missed and be able to touch on that. This process, like we had talked about, really looks familiar because it is what the certified trainers live in. It's what we do as a core. The auditory learners learn best by hearing. We cater to those learners during the tell stage. Visual learners learn best by seeing. We cater to these learners by the show stage. And kinesthetic learners learn best by doing. We cater to these learners during our do stage. And we bring it home in reinforcement by the review stage in this. Did you know people remember 10% of what they see, 20% of what they hear, 40% of what they read, and 90% of what they do while they say they do. And 7 tips for proper delegation. No manager is an island, and kind of what Sprite was talking about. Like, he can't do it all by himself, regardless of how much he tries. Make sure that you delegate. Be crystal clear on your tasks. Tools to do the job. There's nothing more frustrating than somebody giving you something to do, but giving you no direction and no tools to do so. Some say tomato, you say tomato. How are we making sure that we're all speaking the same language and being able to break down the direction that's given? And make sure that you give them enough rope, right? Like, don't micromanage. There's nothing also worse than a micromanager that comes in and they give you a task to do, but then they're standing over your shoulder telling you how to do every step of the way. Give them the ability to learn on their own and come back to you with the results. And how was it for you? How do you learn the best? You know, sometimes for me, and I know that the people that I've worked with the most can definitely relate this message, but I always walk up to them and I ask them, you know, can you tell me why you did that? Can you tell me what you're looking at? Can you explain this to me? And I'm not doing it because I think that they're wrong. I'm doing it because I want them to teach me what they're doing. One, I may learn a more effective way, efficient way to do something, but also I may be able to see what they're looking at and we could adjust in real time to kind of move around maybe some of the things that could hang them up later on. Making decisions is an important part of working smarter. You must be decisive and have a sense of urgency about removing those obstacles. These are the 5 things that I ask myself when I go in to make decisions based on my 4 walls and my location, right? Will I lower the guest perception? Will I affect the guest experience? Will I compromise health, safety, or sanitation in a negative way? Will I be going against our company core principles and the message? Am I sacrificing my own standards by making this decision? And if I answer no, you know, if I sit there and look at that and I say, yeah, I'm going to be breaking this, or yeah, that's going to go against that, I step back for a minute. This is kind of my review stage where I step back and I go, okay, obviously the action that I'm going to take in this moment is going to jeopardize something that I'm not willing to. And I could take the problem to the table with those people that I'm networking with and find a solution versus just stepping over the cliff, as I call it. And then the activity time, I don't know if oh, there it goes. Identify an opportunity in the restaurant that we could improve upon. List a specific goal you set to achieve this result, which is also really important. These 2 things, and taking this to a manager meeting, identifying that opportunity in the restaurant that everyone could improve on, and finding a solution that everyone's going to start working in the same direction. We don't always have to agree, and we could agree to disagree at a manager table, but it's really important that we start working on those things to get to the end goal. And always make sure that you list that specific goal. I put it on paper. I put it in my box, like on the side of my box. So every time I walk into the office, I look at it and I say, okay, that's my goal, and this is what I'm going to achieve that today. And it could be very small. It doesn't have to be something that, you know, I'm not going to climb Mount Everest today, but I may sit there and I may work on server side work, or redoing the floor maps, or looking at Wisely. Whatever the goal is, it could be as small, and it could be something that you're looking at every day, or something that you could check off by the end of your shift. Here's some reading suggestions. If y'all like to read and like pastime, they also have a lot of them on iTunes, and different books that you guys could listen to if you're more into the podcast type of style. But if you're interested, there's a couple of books that y'all can research and read. And that's all I have on delegation. I'm sorry, I felt like my screen kind of glitched there a little bit. My Wi-Fi dropped. Are there any questions at all?
There's no questions in the chat group, but anybody else? Does anybody have any questions? There's clapping. Okay, well, if nobody has any questions, feel free, of course, in the future, if you have something comes up, you can reach out to me or to Miss Christine. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And with that, that concludes our meeting. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for participating. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Oh, wait, there's a
Thank
new
you.
message. Let me see here.
Thank you.
No, they're just thanking us. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Lupe.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lupe.
Christine.
Thank you.
Great job, Miss Christine.
Thank you.
Congratulations.